these three coffees all look alike, and in a way they are. They're all brewed using the same coffee grinds from K-cups. But this one was brewed using a regular K-cup machine, this one was brewed using a pour over, and this one was brewed using an Aeropress. Does the brewing method make any difference with K-cups? Let's find out. So I'm starting by brewing as designed using a K-cup machine. Now this is not a Keurig, this is a cheap Amazon knockoff, but it does, the same sort of basic job. Now, first order of business is to figure out how much coffee is actually in this K-cup, so a bit of surgery here. I'm going to use a 16:1 ratio, so this will tell me how much water I need. Now, these K-cups should be somewhat fresh. They're typically packaged using nitrogen to keep the air out. So let's see how much they weigh. So 13 grams of coffee, that is just over 200 grams of water. So that's what I'm going to use. So I measure out the water, add it to the coffee maker, put the K-cup in, shut the lid, add a cup, and press the brew button. I'm measuring the temperature of this coffee here, just to check that it really is coming out hot enough. Typically we want to brew coffee between 195 and 205 Fahrenheit, and this was coming out pretty close to that. The other thing that we want to keep track of is extraction time, and well, this has now finished, and it was running for 40 seconds. Typically, you would want to brew coffee over sort of the course of between 2 to 3 minutes. So 40 seconds is pretty fast. That can lead to a little bit of under extraction, so you may not get all of the full flavors out of the coffee. But you can't argue with convenience. That was very easy. So on to brew method number 2, which is to brew those K-cup coffee grounds using the pour over method. Now this might improve things because the extraction time will be longer and I have really good control over the temperature because I'm using a temperature adjusted kettle. So I'm folding my paper cone filter and adding it into my milliliter pour over system. From there I'm going to just add a little bit of hot water just to flush out that papery taste of the filter and discard that. Then add the ground coffee. Give the grind a quick shake. And now I'm going to perform a bloom, which is just to add a little bit of the hot water to cover all of the coffee grinds and let that CO2 gas off. I'll leave this for about 30 seconds. Then it's time to add the rest of the water, pouring in a slow circular motion using my gooseneck kettle. And I'm going to keep going until I have about 200 grams of water. And that took about 2.5 minutes to brew this cup of coffee. So that's number 2. And brewing method number 3 is the Aeropress. And this is a little bit different to the pour over in that there's a little bit of pressure being applied here. We're going to create a vacuum and then push the water through the coffee grinds and through the filter and into the cup. So this can sometimes create a bit of a stronger taste from the coffee, and it'll be interesting to see how it does with the K-cup. So let's crack open another K-cup, add my filter and screw that onto the Aeropress. Add in the ground coffee, and now just like the pour over, I'm going to perform a bloom, just wet those grounds and leave for about 30 seconds. Then add in the remainder of my water to get to 200 milliliters of water, and this is at 205 Fahrenheit. From there, quickly add in the plunger just to create a vacuum to stop any coffee leaking through and give it a swirl. 2 minutes later, slowly plunge and stop when you hear the hiss. So that's coffee number 3. Okay, taste test time. Did this make any difference? But let's try the K-cup coffee first. That's about what I would expect. The thing with these K-cup makers is they're very convenient and they're also fairly consistent. A little bitter. Let's try the pour over. Well, there is a difference here. It's not a huge difference, but it is noticeable. This pour over drink has much less of a bitter taste than the K-cup. In fact, maybe it's not so much bitter as it is sour. So it's just got a little bit of a pucker to it, and the K-cup, doesn't have that at all. And that could be a process of the under extraction, and also it just went through a tiny little filter. These K-Cups have this tiny little filter in them, whereas the pour over method has much more paper and filter to work with. Okay, let's try the Aeropress. The Aeropress tastes very similar to this pour over. Oh yeah, but it does not have the sourness that I'm detecting in that first one. Now the difference between these three is it's not huge. They all taste like Starbucks Pike Place coffee, but the brewing methods I think are quite apparent. This may all be placebo of course, but I would recommend you give this a try and let me know what you think. And if this all seems like a lot of work to make a cup of coffee, there is a way that you can brew a cup of coffee using just a K-Cup, some hot water and a pair of scissors. And if you'd like to see how that is done, check out this video.